Hey everyone, so I wanted to hop on and I always say the same thing. I wanted to hop on, but it's true. I'm hopping on live. I wanted to share with you guys some cool things that I've just been learning and researching and reading about. So there is a doctor, her name is Dr. Caroline Leaf, and she wrote the book Switch on Your Brain. If you have never read that book, it is a great book. It will open your eyes to so much about how God created our mind. And what I love about her book is she is a Christian, and so everything she talks about is from the perspective of that, of being someone who is of faith, who loves the Lord, and is seeking his purpose in your life. So reading that book from the perspective of a Christian, where she really, like, the title is Switch on Your Brain, she really dives into how God created our mind to work. And you guys know that I am a life coach, and I love talking about mindfulness and sharing things about how to just live better, live with more intention, so that you are focused and living from a place of joy and contentment. And it's majorly what I go into a lot of detail over on the Thought Vault podcast. So if you've not listened to those episodes, please go check out that podcast. It would be awesome. Leave a review if you do too. That would be great. But anyways, so I love talking about this stuff, and I totally geek out on it because it is fascinating. Basically, in a nutshell, Dr. Caroline Leaf talks about how much power our mind has over the health of our body and the health of our mind, and basically our overall just wellness here on earth, and how amazingly and miraculously God created our bodies and minds to survive physically, survive mentally and emotionally, and have the ability and the capability to live a long, full life where we can truly dive into our relationship with him and live well and have a lot of experiences. And so we all know that, like, our culture and the way we have been conditioned and everything like that has led us to a point in our life and in our society where, despite having super technological medical advances, we're still very sick. We're very sick mentally, we're very sick spiritually, we're very sick physically. And it's mainly just because of the way we live our lives. We're very stress oriented, and we operate from a very stressful state most of the time. Unlike back when, there would be periods of stress and overwhelm, and sure, lots of parts of life were hard, and some parts of life were harder then than they are now, but we've become a culture where we are kind of obsessed with being sick and being stressed. Instead of recognizing things about our lifestyle, we pile more on, or we contribute to it more in a negative way. And because we have the ability to be in constant contact with each other, see every part of the good and the bad of our world that we live in, it's very stressful on our bodies and on our minds. And a lot of our health and a lot of the condition that we live in stems completely from our mind and our mindset and our thoughts. And so it was very interesting today. I had some time in the car, and I was listening to a podcast. Actually, Dr. Caroline Leaf's podcast is called Cleaning Up the Mental Mess. And she had a doctor on there today talking about how he's done all this research, neurological research, on how our brain responds to things like breathing even, and how even taking a moment to breathe deep and exhale deep changes physiological parts of our mind and how the neural pathways are connecting, making us much more alert, positive, and present and excited about life. And studies have even shown how when we're being mindful and even practicing breathing deeper and fuller, how the telomeres on the ends of our chromosomes grow. And what does that mean? Basically, if you think about our chromosomes in our body, they all have an endpoint, and the telomeres, they gave a metaphor as it being like a sock on the end of the chromosome. And when we start to have problems with depression, anxiety, mental awareness, cognition, aging, it's due to those telomeres shortening on the ends of our chromosome. And so that's what really wears our body down the most. And so things like toxins in your products and what you're eating, oxidative stress that your body goes under when it's sick, even when you are just mentally stressed and overwhelmed and depressed and anxious. All of those factors shorten those telomeres, and as those telomeres get shortened, we get sick. And so it was so fascinating to listen to this podcast episode, and I will link it in the comments of this video so you can check that out. I'll also put the name of the book that I was talking about earlier in there. But basically, the interesting part of it is that we can quite literally change the trajectory of our health and our life by practicing thinking differently and thinking more positively and taking negative stress out of our life and flipping it with positivity. And it sounds so like, oh, but it is the truth, and they have such scientific evidence. And it's interesting because even Dr. Caroline Leaf will say, things that the Bible has told us that lead to a long life and lead to a joyful heart and a contentful spirit, what God has told us since the beginning, science is starting to back up, so it's so interesting to see how the truth of what God has said truly does play out in our life. Even scientifically, they can scan your brain and do these test on your blood and test on your heart when they are having you practice like breathing deeper, do like meditating on the scripture, and meditating by just trying to just not think about anything and just being still, and giving your mind rest, and what that does for your body mentally and physically being able to see the evidence of that, and to see the dopamine levels change and the cortisol, the stress in your body change, the hormone levels in your body completely alter simply by you taking the time to think positively and think differently and doing daily activities that bring about mindfulness and being present and not being because a lot of the time what mindfulness basically means is being present in your current situation. So you may be sitting with your kids and playing with them, but your mind is thinking about something else, and 9 times out of 10 is probably something that's stressing you out. And so you're sitting there physically present in this one arena, but your mind is imposing stress on your body by thinking about a deadline you have, or thinking about an argument you're in right now, or thinking about anything that is causing true stress in your body. And what that's doing to you internally, it's shortening those telomeres, it's giving you inflammation in your body, it's making you feel unwell, it's changing your sleep patterns, your hormones, it's changing how your body is responding to your stress and the stress in your life, and your gut health, which catapults a whole other arena of health and wellness. Your gut is very important to your health, and even thinking about stressful things changes your gut. Think about when you're really nervous or you're about to speak on stage. You probably feel like you have to go to the bathroom, or your stomach drops, or your kid falls down and you get that knot in your stomach. There's so many physical responses to stress, and even when you may not be feeling that knot in your stomach, or you might not feeling that tension in your head, like a tension headache, even thinking negative thoughts is causing chemical reactions to happen in your body and changing your hormones and so many other parts to your system. And so this practice of mindfulness sounds like woo-woo, but God has been telling us to meditate on His Word, to rest, to, take heed of what's coming off your tongue. What you speak is what's in your heart. And all these things truly do add up to how you are partaking in the world, and what you're feeling, and your general disposition, and how you're managing your relationships and your work and everything else. It all rolls downhill, and the hill starts here. This hill starts in your mind and what you're thinking about. And so it's very interesting to hear these scientists, especially those that are Christian at the same time, talk about the miracle of our mind and how God created our minds to work, because we do have so much control over our health and our wellness, and our general disposition just naturally within ourselves, and the measures that we're taking to think correctly and to really mitigate all the negative and the stress and the overwhelm that so many of us are experiencing, especially in the season right now that we're in. And so it's important that we are truly doing what we can to reinforce positivity in our life, setting healthy boundaries with things that we know aren't the best for us, practicing breathing. So I'm going to drop in the comments the link to that podcast episode. I also want to drop a link to the Insiders Facebook group that I run for my community. So if you guys aren't in that Insiders group, I'd love to have you come in there. We do live. I go live in there. We talk about things. We talk about prayer requests. Today we were talking about recipes. I mean, it's just a good community to be a part of, and I would love to have every single one of you in there with us. So I'll leave a comment in the description of this video for you to join that Facebook group. And if you have interest and this sounds like something interesting, check out my podcast, The Thought Vault, and check out the Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess podcast by Dr. Leaf, and I'll leave a link to the specific episode that I talked about today. I hope y'all have a fantastic day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.